There is an ancient principle in alliance strategy. You can have energy security or you can have ideological loyalty, but you cannot have both when your economy is freezing. For 75 years, Germany managed to balance this within NATO. But this week, Olaf Scholz made a decision that breaks the backbone of the Atlantic Alliance. On December 28th, Germany signed a 10-year natural gas agreement with Russia, valued at 120 billion euros. Robert Habeck, German economy minister, secretly flew to Moscow. Sergei Lavrov received him with a smile, and NATO headquarters in Brussels went into absolute panic. I am a former International Monetary Fund analyst. I worked evaluating geopolitical stability risks when Germany began building Nord Stream 2. I saw the internal documents that warned exactly this, that energy dependence would eventually override security commitments. And now, after 2 years of sanctions, after 32 packages of punitive measures against Russia, Germany has just surrendered its economy to material reality. The numbers are devastating for Washington. Germany is the world's fourth largest economy, $4.3 trillion in GDP. It is Europe's industrial engine. And it just said that economic survival supersedes Atlantic solidarity. This is not geopolitical theory. This is tearing NATO apart from within, right now. Let me show you how the United States turned its most powerful ally into its greatest traitor. Because what the corporate media doesn't want you to know is the complete catalog of American economic sabotage against Germany. First aggression. The destruction of Nord Stream in September 2022. 4 underwater explosions cut the pipeline directly connecting Russia with Germany. 11 billion euros in infrastructure destroyed. Seymour Hersh, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, published detailed evidence of U.S. involvement. Washington denied it. But Germany lost its cheapest gas source, 35% below European market prices. German industry absorbed 80 billion euros in additional costs during 2023. Second betrayal. U.S. pressure to close German nuclear plants. For 15 years, Washington pressured Berlin to eliminate nuclear energy under the pretext of environmental safety. Germany closed its last nuclear plant in April 2023. Result: total dependence on imported gas. Electricity prices for German industries increased from 8 cents per kilowatt hour to 22 cents. Chemical companies like BASF announced production cuts of 40%. The United States eliminated German energy independence and then destroyed its Russian alternative. Third humiliation. American liquefied natural gas at extortion prices. After Nord Stream, Washington offered to sell LNG to Germany. Price: 3 times the cost of Russian pipeline gas. Germany spent 52 billion euros importing American gas in 2023. Same gas, different origin, triple price. U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm publicly celebrated capturing the European market. Germany paid America's energy subsidy. Fourth aggression. Secondary sanctions against German companies trading with Russia. Since February 2022, the U.S. Treasury Department threatened Siemens, Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz with exclusion from the financial system if they maintained Russian operations. Siemens lost 17 billion euros in Russian railway contracts. Volkswagen closed 2 factories in Russia, loss of 4 billion euros. Mercedes abandoned projects worth 3,500 million. Total: 24,500 million in German assets sacrificed due to American pressure. Fifth betrayal. The American Inflation Reduction Act of August 2022. Washington approved subsidies of $369 billion for companies manufacturing in the United States. Result: German companies moving production across the Atlantic. BASF invested $10 billion in a new chemical plant in Louisiana, not Germany. Volkswagen moved battery production to South Carolina. The United States used the energy crisis it created to steal German industry. Sixth humiliation. The blocking of Chinese semiconductors affecting German exports. In October 2022, Washington banned exports of advanced chips to China. China is 32% of the German automotive export market. U.S. restrictions meant that BMW, Mercedes, Audi could not sell high-end electric vehicles in China. Estimated loss: 19 billion euros annually in German export revenue. So what happened? Germany calculated the cost of Atlantic loyalty, 200 billion euros in 2 years, and decided that national survival supersedes alliance ideology. Olaf Scholz did not betray NATO. The United States destroyed the economic logic of remaining in it. Now the Pentagon faces its worst scenario. Without Germany fully committed, NATO loses its industrial center of gravity. Lloyd Austin, U.S. Defense Secretary, submitted a classified report to the National Security Council. 52% of NATO military logistics in Europe depends on German infrastructure. U.S. bases at Ramstein, Spangdahlem, Grafenwohr, all on German territory. 35,000 U.S. troops stationed in Germany. And Scholz just demonstrated that cooperation has a price. For 75 years, the United States had a magic trick. NATO, as a security guarantee, made Europe accept American economic dependence. Security was free if you bought everything else from Washington. But when the United States sabotaged German energy, it turned protection into extortion, and Germany found an alternative supplier. The U.S. strategy had 3 pillars to keep Germany aligned. First, fear of Russia. Failed because Germany discovered that trading with Russia is less dangerous than freezing for the United States. Second, dependence on American markets. Failed when China became Germany's largest trading partner, 256 billion euros annually versus 190 billion with the United States. Third, European leadership under American hegemony. Failed when Emmanuel Macron of France publicly backed the German agreement, declaring that Europe must have energy sovereignty. Here is the devastating irony. The United States desperately needs Germany to finance support for Ukraine. Germany has provided 28 billion euros in Ukrainian military and economic aid, second only to the United States. But Berlin just announced it will reduce that support by 40% in 2025. Jake Sullivan must beg Scholz to maintain the flow of weapons. But Scholz is buying gas from the country against which he is supposed to arm Ukraine. You cannot declare war on your own energy supplier. The Germany-Russia agreement has devastating clauses for Washington. First, Russia will supply 60 billion cubic meters of gas annually to Germany at 40 euros per megawatt hour, 30% below European market prices. Second, Germany will pay in euros, not dollars, eliminating 18 billion annually from the petrodollar system. Third, German companies will obtain priority access to Russian infrastructure projects valued at 90 billion euros. Siemens already signed railway contracts worth 12 billion. China, watching from Beijing, immediately offered to co-invest in the new Yamal Europe 2 pipeline with Germany and Russia. Xi Jinping understands the moment. When the Atlantic Alliance fractures, Eurasian space integrates. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank approved 25 billion euros for Germany, Russia, China energy projects. Washington built NATO to prevent exactly this integration. Now it's happening with its most important ally as architect. The Pentagon attempted 4 countermeasures in 72 hours. First, threat to withdraw U.S. troops from Germany. Scholz responded that Germany will save 8 billion euros annually in costs of hosting foreign troops. Second strategy, offer to sell American gas at discounted prices. Jennifer Granholm offered LNG at 50 euros per megawatt hour. Scholz pointed out that Russia offers 40, and by pipeline, not by ships. Third strategy, pressure through Poland and Baltic countries. Leaders of Poland and Estonia publicly condemned Germany. Scholz reminded them that Germany subsidizes 32 billion euros annually in European Union cohesion funds, of which Poland receives 12 billion. Fourth strategy, threat of financial sanctions. Janet Yellen suggested restrictions on German banks. Scholz threatened to withdraw 250 billion euros that Germany holds in US Treasury bonds. What you witness is the moment when the empire must beg the subordinate who decided sovereignty supersedes submission. The United States spent 2 years punishing Germany for its industry, its energy, its exports. Now Germany is redefining what it means to be an ally. Mutually beneficial trade, not servitude. Now I want to mention here John Mearsheimer, professor of political science at the University of Chicago. Mearsheimer wrote in The Tragedy of Great Power Politics that great powers never permanently subordinate their vital interests to alliances. When the cost of the alliance exceeds the benefit, the alliance collapses. Germany just calculated that 200 billion euros in 2 years is an unsustainable cost. Mearsheimer predicted this in 2014 when Nord Stream 2 was proposed. The United States would try to prevent it, would fail, and the transatlantic relationship would never recover. Stephen Walt of Harvard added in The Origins of Alliances that nations align against threats, not with power. For Germany in 2025, the greatest threat is not Russian invasion. It is industrial collapse caused by overpriced American energy. When your economy contracts 3.2% due to energy costs and your ally is responsible, that ally becomes the threat. Kenneth Waltz, father of structural realism, argued that the international system is anarchic. There is no authority higher than nation states. NATO pretended to be that authority. But when Washington uses NATO to advance American interests at the expense of Europeans remember they are sovereign states. Germany just reaffirmed Waltzian anarchy. There is no institutional loyalty that survives national economic destruction. Connect this with the gas agreement in Berlin. Realist theory predicted exactly this outcome. When alliance costs exceed security benefits, great powers renegotiate or abandon. Germany is not formally abandoning NATO. It is simply emptying it of meaning by prioritizing relations with the alliance's designated adversary. What the corporate media doesn't want you to know is that the Germany-Russia agreement is a symptom of a transatlantic systemic collapse. There are two pillars that sustained American hegemony in Europe: the Russian security threat justifying American military presence, and the American energy monopoly after Nord Stream. Both pillars just crumbled. The first pillar, the Russian threat narrative. For 2 years, Washington argued that Russia is an existential threat to Europe. But if Russia is so dangerous, why is Germany, the most geographically exposed power, signing 10-year contracts with Moscow? The answer: Germany assessed the real risk. Russia never invaded a NATO country. Russia never cut gas supplies to Germany in 50 years of trade, even during the Cold War. The real threat to German industry does not come from Russian tanks. It comes from energy bills that tripled under the American sanctions regime. The second pillar, U.S. domination of the European energy market. After Nord Stream, Washington captured 42% of the European liquefied natural gas market. American gain, $83 billion in 2023. But LNG requires expensive regasification infrastructure, tanker ships, and prices 3 times higher than pipeline gas. Germany just reminded Washington that geography matters. Russia is 1,000 kilometers away, the United States 6,000. Russian pipeline gas will always be cheaper than American LNG by ship. Concrete example: BASF's chemical plant in Ludwigshafen consumes 8 billion cubic meters of gas annually. With Russian gas at 40 euros per megawatt hour, 3,200 million euros annually. With American LNG at 110 euros, 8,800 million annually. Difference: 5,600 million. BASF chose to survive. Germany chose BASF over NATO. Another example: Volkswagen needs stable energy to produce 2 million electric vehicles annually in Germany. Energy costs represent 18% of production cost. Under American gas prices, Volkswagen lost competitiveness against Tesla and Chinese BYD. Under restored Russian gas, Volkswagen can maintain German production. The alternative: close German factories, lay off 80,000 workers, move production to China or the United States. Scholz chose German jobs over American approval. In Eastern Europe, the reaction is panic. Poland, which spent 42 billion euros building LNG terminals to import American gas, now faces German competition with cheaper Russian gas. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, which positioned their security on being NATO's most loyal flank, see Germany undermining the entire logic of confrontation with Russia. But here is the brutal reality. Poland imports 80% of its gas, Estonia 90%. None have heavy industry comparable to Germany. Their geopolitical preferences are luxuries that Germany, as the economic engine, cannot afford. In France, Emmanuel Macron immediately backed the German agreement. France imports only 36% of its energy, thanks to nuclear. But Macron understands that if German industry collapses, the European Union collapses. 82% of French exports go to the EU, of which Germany is 24%. If Germany enters permanent recession, France follows. Macron chose economic realism over Atlantic theatricality. The transition has already happened. The world simply has not realized it yet. NATO without Germany fully committed is a shell, and Germany just demonstrated that its commitment depends on Washington not destroying its economy. Are you enjoying the analysis? If this content is showing you the truth that the media hides, subscribe to the channel right now. Join thousands of people who are awakening to geopolitical reality. Like this video if you want to keep seeing uncensored analysis. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching this from? How is this transatlantic fracture affecting your country? Your perspective is valuable. Now let's connect this to your daily life. Because this is not a debate among diplomats in Brussels. This is directly impacting your wallet, your savings, your economic future. If you live in Europe, your energy bills are directly linked to this German decision. When Germany pays 40 euros per megawatt hour for Russian gas, and your country pays 110 for American LNG, your electricity bill is double or triple that of a German. The average family in Spain pays 200 euros monthly for electricity. In Germany, with the new agreement, it will be 110 euros. The difference: 90 euros monthly, 1,080 euros annually. Multiply that by 22 million Spanish households, 23,700 million euros additional that Spaniards pay because their government prioritizes loyalty to Washington over domestic economy. If you live in the United States, this NATO collapse means your government will spend more on European military presence without German financial backing. The United States maintains 75,000 troops in Europe, annual cost $52 billion. Germany subsidizes 18% of those costs through housing, infrastructure, logistical support. If Germany reduces cooperation, the United States absorbs $8 billion additional. That comes from American taxes or gets added to the $35 trillion national debt. Your investments are also at risk. European and American pension funds hold bonds of energy companies. American LNG companies like Cheniere Energy saw their stocks rise 200% since 2022, thanks to the European market. Now Germany abandons American LNG. Cheniere shares fell 18% in 3 days after the agreement announcement. If your pension fund holds Cheniere, you just lost value. The cost of manufactured products. Everything manufactured in Germany, from BMW cars to Siemens machinery, will cost less if Germany has cheap energy. That means fiercer competition for American and Chinese manufacturers. But it also means German products in your local market will be more accessible. A BMW manufactured with energy at 40 euros per megawatt hour costs 3,000 euros less than one manufactured with energy at 110. That difference transfers to consumer price. But there is a darker dimension. The United States will not accept this humiliation passively. History shows that when empires lose influence, they respond with coercion. Washington already threatened financial sanctions against Germany. If the United States imposes restrictions on German banks, world trade is disrupted. Deutsche Bank processes 13% of European trade transactions. U.S. sanctions on Deutsche Bank would create chaos in global supply chains. Your iPhone, your clothes, your electronics, everything transits through payment systems that could be frozen. There is also the risk of military escalation. When alliances collapse, security guarantees evaporate. If the United States withdraws troops from Germany in retaliation, deterrence against Russia weakens. That does not mean immediate invasion, but increases the probability of misunderstandings, border incidents, crises that escalate. Poland already requested that U.S. troops withdrawn from Germany be relocated to Polish territory. That brings U.S. forces closer to the Russian border. Russia will respond with its own deployments. The risk of accidental conflict increases. But there is also hope in this fracture. A multipolar order does not mean perpetual chaos. It means that medium-sized countries like Germany regain agency. For 75 years, European foreign policy was dictated from Washington. Wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, all with European participation under American pressure. Results? Millions of refugees, regional destabilization, costs of trillions of euros. If Europe develops strategic sovereignty, it can avoid future disastrous military adventures. For ordinary citizens, this eventually means fewer wars to finance with taxes. It means your government can prioritize domestic infrastructure over foreign military bases. It means trade relations are based on mutual benefit, not imposed ideology. The immediate challenge is the transition. The United States will not release Europe without a brutal fight. We will see financial volatility, possibly trade sanctions, certainly massive media campaigns painting Germany as a traitor. The headlines already began. Germany stabs NATO in the back. Scholz sells Europe to Putin. This is propaganda designed to isolate Germany. Your job is to see through it. Stay informed. Understand that when you hear about Atlantic solidarity or Western values, it is about preserving American hegemony, not your real security. Germany calculated that its security improves with affordable energy and stable economy, not with loyalty to an alliance that sabotaged its prosperity. Follow this channel for analysis that connects geopolitical theory with your daily economic reality. Share this video with someone who needs to understand why their electricity bill doubled in 2 years. Because the official narrative will collapse when more countries follow the German example, and prepared people will thrive while others cling to illusions. You are witnessing how the foundations of the world order are being reorganized. The Germany-Russia energy agreement is not a commercial contract. It is a death certificate for NATO as we knew it. The question is not whether the transatlantic alliance will survive in its current form. It will not. The question is, what will replace the void? Eurasian integration under German, Russian, Chinese leadership, or chaos while Washington desperately tries to restore an order that already died? The next 18 months will answer that question, and your life, your economy, your future depend on which path prevails.